let me ask you a question. Can you name the bass player of any band? Yeah, most of you probably can. But there was a time when I couldn't. And I worked in music retail. This is back when you had to go to a store and buy your music on a cassette or a CD. Now, I had just gotten the job. I was brand new to the industry, brand new. I wasn't brand new to retail, but I was brand new to music retail. I thought I kind of knew music, but I really didn't. I wasn't very good with my product knowledge or my music knowledge. I mean, I could listen to the radio and sometimes tell you who it was, but that wasn't really my thing, right? I didn't go around memorizing who did all the songs. I just knew what songs I liked. I didn't really pay attention to who the band was most of the time. Anyway, I got the job in music retail. I started trying to learn the product knowledge because back then, if you worked in a music store and customers came in, they expected you to know things, right? They wanted you to know who sang certain songs or who was on the album or when the album was going to be released, et cetera. So knowing that was an important part of being a music store manager. Anyway, one day I was having some beers with my district manager and another store manager. This was early on in my career there. I think I'd been working there, I don't know, 6 months or something. And we're having some beers. And this other store manager who I didn't really like, he says something about, he's talking about a band, right? And he mentions somebody's name. And I say, who's that? You know? And he looks at me like I have two heads. And he's like, well, don't you know who that is? That's a such and such bass player for such and such band. And I'm like, oh, all right. Whatever. And he was really offended by that, being a music expert like he was. He's looking at me and he looks over at my boss and he says something to the effect of, how can this guy even work here? He doesn't know his music. He shouldn't be a music store manager for us or something like that, right? He was a real asshole. Keep in mind, I was pretty cocky back then myself. Anyway, he says something like that, and I got really pissed off. I stood up from the table and I said something like, I can run circles around you as a manager. You're just because you can name bass players of groups, your store's shit. My store is 10 times better. Something like that. And I walked off and went back to my hotel room, I think, that night. Now, what's the point here? The point of this episode is that as the weeks went by, as the months went by, I was a better manager than him. No, that's not the point. The point of the episode is he was right. Like, I should know my product knowledge. I mean, you can't really be a music store manager if you can't name bands and songs and artists and things. I mean, it's kind of part of the job, right? And so I spent a lot of time studying my music and listening and constantly opening up music that I wasn't familiar with and trying to, I wasn't trying to learn every member of every band, but I was getting better. And I knew that was important. And it meant a lot to my clients. It gave me credibility, right? I didn't just have a neat, organized, clean store, but I also knew the music. And the customers wanted both, right? They did want a clean, organized, friendly store, but they also wanted to come in and ask questions, and they wanted to know that you could answer them most of the time, or if you couldn't answer it, you knew where to find the information. And so he was right. I studied music as much as I could, and I spent, by the way, like 12 years in music retail, so I got pretty damn good as the years went along. So I encourage you, if you're listening to this episode and you are, let's say you have really good work ethic and really great people skills and you're super organized, your soft skills overall are awesome. That's cool. That's great. That's going to take you a long way in whatever it is you're doing. But you do need to know the product, right? You can't just work really hard. You can't just have good people skills. You got to know the menu. And you got to study that information if you want to give yourself real credibility with not only the customers, but with your boss and your supervisors, et cetera. So you get into a new environment, a new industry, a new product line, study it as fast as you can, learn every single thing you can about where you're working and the product, and you will give yourself a much better chance of being successful. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day.